everybody. We're sitting here at the PhoCusWright Conference in Los Angeles, California, and you're sitting at the BTO conference in Florence, Italy. But I'm very pleased to introduce an extra special guest, the co-founder and CEO of TripAdvisor, Steve Kaufer. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. And I'm really delighted to be able to be at your conference virtually.
Almost.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I know TripAdvisor is very well represented with Helen there. So please enjoy this little chat while we can.
Great. So I remember last year when I was at a cooking class outside of Chiang Mai in Thailand, and this small entrepreneur got his envelope, his first envelope from TripAdvisor, and he was glowing and beaming, and it always reminds me what an incredible brand you've created and the influence on travel and tourism, literally every nook and cranny of planet Earth. And everybody knows that, but what a lot of people don't realize is that, like all of us, you started in the beginning and small. And I remember when I first met you with Langley Steiner at Flagship Ventures, and you were a startup. So could you share with the audience what in the world gave you the idea to start TripAdvisor?
Sure. I mean, it does fit a bunch of the sort of stereotypes of a founder story in that I personally wanted to take a trip, and this was late 90s.
What year was it?
97, 98,
Wow.
when I wanted to take the trip, and went to a travel agent because that's what people did, and got the set of recommendations for different resorts. I think it was going to Mexico, and received the brochures from the resorts, these printed, high glossy, and I vividly remember there was 3 different choices. There was a budget, a moderate, and a luxury, and the pictures were, as always, to die for.
Perfect.
Beautiful, and hey, I work for a living, so I was going to stay in that cheap one, and my wife at the time said very clearly, well, let's pick carefully, because if you'd like to still be married on the way back, it better be a good enough place.
You didn't want to make sure it wasn't the Roach Hotel.
Wanted to make sure. But I'm like, but the pictures are great.
No way.
So I went online. And it took me forever to find the nugget of information out there that would actually sway my decision. And the nugget was an unbiased review from somebody else that said it was fine except for this, this, and this, and had some candid photos.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, thank goodness. Thanks, honey, for suggesting I do this, because that isn't going to be good. I wouldn't even like it. Let's stay at the option number 2. We went, had a delightful time. And on the way back, my wife said, surely there must be a better way. There must, you're a techie guy. Can you build me a better mousetrap?
Where were you working at then?
I was, my last company had been sold. I was working for the new company. And so I kind of knew I wanted to do something else, but can't you build a better mousetrap to help me find that nugget of information on the internet? And the answer I said at the time was, yeah, it's a good idea, but I have a job now. I'm working, I have to finish that. Fast forward a year later, and I had met Langley, had pulled together
So
some
Langley,
folks.
was he at Flagship Ventures?
Langley was sort of entrepreneur in residence at
venture capital firm in Boston in Massachusetts.
And we didn't know each other, but hey, he thought online travel was a great spot to be in, and I was the techie with the idea on how to do this, but without a whole lot of business experience and how to actually turn it into a company. But we teamed up, complemented each other very nicely, and eventually I did quit my job. We started this, raised a bit of money. And
when was the launch?
The company launch was February of 2000, and the site launch was November of 2000, and it was a high promise with a ton of problems beginning.
I think that's when I got that email from Linda Peresky.
Oh, yes.
So David was on our board at Travel Nation. So, well, you said you raised some money, but by today's standards, very,
Yeah,
very
we
little.
raised $1 million.
Yeah, and total 4 million or
Total
something?
4.
And the market cap today of TripAdvisor is in the
Yeah, it must be
12
around
bil-
10,
12
something
billion,
like that, yeah.
12 billion US dollars on NASDAQ. So that's not bad, 4 million to 12 billion. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, I remember in the beginning, because then you started to come to the PhoCusWright Conference, I remember with your backpack on a budget still.
That's right.
So Tuesday, they invited me to judge this event I created called the Travel Innovation Summit, where startups and emerging companies and some established companies pitch their innovative new ideas, and with all the problems I want to get into. And that was, you were where they are today, you were in 2000. And you had, it didn't work right away when you started. You had some, well, failures, that's what we call them, and pivots. And how did that go? How'd you get going?
We thought the concept of the business was great. We'd assemble all this great information, but it was going to be too expensive for our blood to go build a consumer company.
Right.
People today know TripAdvisor as the consumer travel
So you started
company.
B2B.
B2B, business to business. We were going to license our search results, if you will, our content, to other travel websites, which we thought was a great idea. They thought was a great idea. We just couldn't get any clients. And it's like, good idea meets business reality. And right, they call it a pivot today. When you change your business model, we called it scrambling for our life. Yeah.
Lifesaver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was, we launched in October of 2000.
But even the second thing you did didn't take off either, if I took.
We had realized a year into it, we had one deal, it was worth nothing to us. And so it was just staring reality in the face. We are going to go out of business in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Just no cash left and no investor appetite for refueling something that was clearly proven not to work.
No traction.
But consumers liked it. So we ended up saying, well, if B2B isn't going to work, we'll try B2C. And so we tried B2C the way everyone else did, which was banner ads. And I can actually tell you where on my desk the back of the envelope, because it was the back of an envelope, writing down how many page views would I have to get in order to break even on banner ads. I'm like, wait a minute, there's too many zeros here.
Yeah,
What's
that's like a
wrong with
Google
this?
number,
It was
right?
like, oh, forget it.
So really, Plan B didn't work either.
Plan B did not work either.
And I think it's important because a lot of, I wanted people to hear from yourself, because they probably assume you were just like an instant success, and it's not that easy.
There was
but
nothing
Plan-
instant about it.
Plan C worked.
Plan C, I mean, to be clear, it was more like Plan B didn't work, C, D, E, F, and G, they didn't work really well either. We tried a bunch of different stuff. You could buy a lifetime business listing for $99 stuff, and it didn't work either. What we eventually found, again, trying to copy as many models out there as we could, is, look, if you're looking at a hotel page anywhere in the world, we give you the reviews, we give you the photos. It was a great experience, except for that one bit of information which every consumer wanted. Is it available, and how much can I afford it? And when we put a link there that said, click here to find availability and price, people clicked on it. And enough people who clicked on it would want to buy it from an OTA.
Yeah. And I can't remember the guy that did the case study, but I love that line. He said, literally everything began to click then, literally and figuratively.
Everything began to click through. It was phenomenal. We signed 1 or 2 clients. We were profitable in months, and it just took off. And that was our entire focus for the next 4 years.
Yeah. And then sold to Expedia Inc.
Sold to Expedia in 2004.
What, 2 years now? Spun off to go public.
Spun out in end of 2011.
Now it's TRIP on NASDAQ. So our time is short. I just want to ask you, I don't know if you heard Steve Hafner, the founder and CEO, yesterday, but I'll tell you. So Lorraine Cilio asked him a bunch of fill-in-the-blank questions, which matches his personality perfectly. And one of them was, if I could eliminate one competitor, it would be blank. And he said, Google. And made me think of you because we've had that conversation. So if I asked you that question, might you fill in the blank the same way or differently?
I probably would. It's just, they're currently, most of the time, some of the time, an honest broker, but they've achieved such dominance in so many parts of the work that since they have stated ambitions in travel, they can kind of hurt the consumer by shuffling the traffic over to stuff that they want to promote. And, you know, to one degree it's their business, but to the degree that they make changes that hurt what average consumers want, it's not good for us.
Steve had a similar answer, and then at the end he said, but we still spend a hell of a lot of money with Google.
And every travel site is generally addicted to paying Google money to get more traffic because they have so much.
Yeah. Switching gears to Life Beyond TripAdvisor, one of your nonprofits. Could you tell? I forget the Carson.
The Caring for Carson Foundation.
Could you tell us about that a little bit?
Absolutely. My dad instilled upon, my mom and dad instilled upon me at a young age that you must leave the world a better place for having occupied a few square meters. And while, yes, I'm very proud of TripAdvisor helping travelers, transparency, I know we've built up a ton of small businesses now have the marketing muscle of the big companies for free because of TripAdvisor. I feel good about that, but I also kind of wanted to try in any way I could to make an impact. So my wife passed away from neuroendocrine cancer, and the Caring for Carson Foundation was founded to find cures for this type of cancer by funding medical research. And so I devote a chunk of my time, a chunk of my dollars to literally make step-by-step progress. And there's no guarantees of anything, but darn it, I was going to do what I could in this, and you know, I'm involved in a few other charities as well. But
I hope everyone takes a page out of that book. So I'm going to thank you and wrap up backwards, and then I'll introduce Giancarlo and we'll splice that in the correct order.
Very good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kaufer, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. A pleasure. A pleasure to everyone. Thank you.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit and bring one of our conference hosts and producers, Giancarlo, on stage to chat with Steve, but hopefully not in Italian.
No, I don't think so.
Giancarlo.
Hi, Steve.
Terrific.
Nice to meet you.
Very
Thank
nice
you
to
for
meet you.
accepting
Oh, my
this
pleasure.
interview. I have a little story for you as well. In 2003, I purchased the domain of TripAdvisor in Italy. And then, I think it was 2007, someone called me from London and offered, obviously I paid it €30, which was nice to have. I didn't do anything. And, it was not my intention to create something alternative. I was running an hotel, so all the traffic was driven to my hotel. And then I was offered, if I remember, 6,000 or 7,000 euro, which compared to 30 euro was good.
Yeah.
So I paid a vacation with that.
All right.
Would you have offered me more if I was staying with that domain?
Probably.
Probably, yes. So I made a mistake.
2014.
I made a mistake. Just a few questions for our Italian audience, which is a lot of them, they want to know about the new feature of the instant booking. Yesterday here at PhoCusWright, we have seen Dara of Expedia saying Expedia will never participate to that. What are you expecting with these new features?
So the instant booking feature is the ability for individual properties, chains, as well as OTAs, if they want, to sign up to take a direct booking on TripAdvisor. And that's on our desktop, our tablet, and our mobile experience. So we hear from independent hoteliers all the time, hey, we'd like to get access to your traffic, but the click-off model and the cost per click, it's hard to budget, it's hard to judge, and fundamentally it's hard to know if it's successful. So we've completely flipped the model and are offering the instant book offering. It's commission-based, and so once we get the connectivity, the technical connectivity in place, then any property globally can sign up and say, hey, I'd like to accept bookings directly from TripAdvisor on a commission model, pure commission, no upfront costs. And what we've heard so far from hoteliers around the globe is, wow, that's great, because it's easier. I don't have to worry about cost per click and ROI calculations. It's a nice diversification from my current channels. And those TripAdvisor customers, they're only interested in booking because they've read the great reviews on TripAdvisor. So it's a nice match that's not going to get lost in the shuffle.
So it will transform TripAdvisor in something different from, as is not anymore. And how you would define the site right now?
I view TripAdvisor as a fantastic place to research, to shop, to compare prices, and then we hand off the transaction to somebody else. And it's built a great company. There's kind of nothing wrong with that model, and it's not going away. We're just augmenting it at the very end, where instead of I'm handing a traveler off to an Expedia or a Booking.com, who will then try to sell you any property, they don't really care, we're going to say, hey, if you're interested in this property, book it right now. And that's kind of our conversion funnel, if you will. We'll take the credit card, we'll pass it to the hotelier, and then the hotelier has booking. At the end of the day, if you got a good property and your reputation is strong on TripAdvisor, we have travelers that want to stay in your place. And so that works.
So one argue that I listen in Italy, it's obviously Italy, it's a very different market from the US. It's a very fragmented market. We have thousands of hotels and little properties. The penetration of chains is only 8%, so very little. And an argue is, for example, using Trip Connect, some are saying that it brings more traffic to OTAs instead than to private hotel. Does your statistics say so, or?
Well, just to make sure I understand the question, right now we have, to the best of our ability to find, every accommodation in Italy on our site offered to all of our international and domestic travelers. And when you want to actually go book the property, if it is bookable online, it's probably through an OTA. And if you're an independent property with your own booking engine on your own website, you probably also distribute it through the OTAs. So when we look, hey, we're happy to sell the lead to whomever wants to bid for it, the OTAs all bid for it because they bid for everything in their store. So they win the bid, they win the auction, we send them the traffic, and the hotel gets the benefit of the person in the room, you know, the head in the bed, so to speak, and they pay the commission to the OTAs. What we're augmenting now with Instant Book is if we can get the connectivity to your booking engine, which is a technical thing, hard to understand, depends on which booking engine, but when that connectivity is done, instead of sending the click off to an OTA, the hotel gets to take the commission, take the booking directly. And it's that direct piece that'll give the hotelier the benefit in our auction versus the OTA that they can't compete with right now, in large part.
Another argument, it's the cost of the business listing, which some of the hoteliers have found very rapidly increase a lot. Obviously, it has grown rapidly, like TripAdvisor has grown rapidly in those 2 years. But some are protesting about that. I'm an hotelier too, so yep. It's expensive sometimes.
And this one I have to take some personal sort of blame for, because unfortunately when we rolled out the pricing for business listing, we didn't personalize it enough for each property. So what we found was that the original pricing was horribly expensive for some properties and incredibly cheap for others. And when we discovered this down the road, we said, all right, the one-size-fits-all pricing, it wasn't one-size-fits-all, but the general pricing buckets just doesn't work. We have to go to individual pricing based upon how many rooms in your property, how many page views do you have on our site, to reflect the actual business we're going to drive. And so some properties saw a doubling in price. And like, but your site's only grown 40% and you doubled the price, that's unfair. And the answer is, I understand that perspective very much. How could we justify a doubling in price? Well, except that it really was an incredible bargain to begin with based upon how much traffic we're generating. And if you think about, and we've calculated it over and over again, the value that the business listing is driving compared to the other mechanisms of getting the people to the hotel, between the phone number, the URL, the direct click, not charged on a CPC, but as many clicks. We've done a bad job helping our audience understand the value, but if the value was truly understood, the pricing would actually be much higher. And we don't want to raise the prices anymore. We're just looking to get, and we raise prices in some cases, we lower prices in others to just try to get to the right set. And if you had received a price 6 months ago, I urge you to chat with the sales rep again, because we're still tuning that model and we don't claim to have gotten it right.
Okay, so that's a great news for the Italian hotelier, that TripAdvisor is tuning the model for the small properties.
We're absolutely tuning the model, and truly the pricing, the absolute goal of the pricing is to be reflective of the true value that we're providing for you and your specific property. And wow, there's a lot of variations. There's the 12-room hotel that's $400 a night. Okay, that's a big high price, and you don't need a lot of bookings on the telephone to pay for the annual subscription. But when we launched, we were charging the same amount for business listing as the $30 or euros a night 6-room property. Who said, well, I can't afford that, that's absolutely ludicrous. And they were right and we were wrong. So we've adjusted tremendously.
Okay. My very last question. We have seen this new thing, Just For You, which, can you tell us exactly, which is the newest thing we have seen on TripAdvisor, how it works and what you want to achieve with that?
Sure. We think this is great for our consumers and it's great for the hoteliers alike. We have a tremendous amount of data about what our travelers in general are looking for, what they like. And when I say like, it's because they did a price check and they clicked off versus what they've just browsed and decided that they didn't like. So when we look at the user's history, when we look at what other people like this user have done, we're no longer saying, hey, the best hotel in Rome is ABC, because that's the voting of the world in general. And from our traffic, that is more heavily tilted towards American travelers. Well, that's nice, but if I live in Paris and I'm visiting Rome, I may not feel like an American expresses the same interests as I, the Parisian. Or more specifically, hey, what do other Parisians think? What do other people like me think? So now the default for a lot of our traffic is to see a new list. And the new list is based upon where you're from, what you've done on the site before, whether you're a member or not. Just we cookie users and we look at their past behavior to get a better recommendation of what's on top. We know that it's better than what we had before because we're very analytical. We're measuring how many people clicked on the first listing, the second, the third. And if on average people would scroll down to the 4th and the 8th, that's an average. For you, and now we see that people click more on the 1 and the 2 list. So we know we're getting it right, even if it looks a little mysterious or black box.
So you will be tuning restaurant as well?
Starting with hotels, that's just a more important category for us. The restaurants, if you want a secret tip here, the whole restaurants and attractions experience is going to be changing over the next 3 months. better filtering, better categorization of the restaurants so that a bakery, a coffee shop, and a Michelin restaurant aren't right next to each other in what looks like a random order. So we know we can do a lot better on that. We're going to fix that before we bring the personalization technology.
So really thank you, Steve, for this
pleasure.
interview to the Italian BTO. We hope to see you in person sometimes.
I would love it.
We will try to invite you in the future and to have in person in Italy.
Well, thank you very much. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Grazie.